Hi everyone. So my phone says I have exactly 24 minutes to do something, to record this, because it's full. I have quite a few videos and pictures I need to delete. Um, so I do have to make this quick. Um, I've been engaging in very interesting conversations these past few days, like literally, quite literally, since I last posted on grief. And I am still grieving. In a very interesting way. My aunt and uncle lost a loved one, and I found myself reconnecting with them physically. Like we've been engaging on conversations on phone, but we haven't seen each other in a while. So I'm now in their house, and um, the last time I was in this room was in 2014, and I was in a relationship with my first love. And we'd been together from when I was 19 turning 20. Yeah, we could say 19 turning 20. And then I joined university. So we met when I was studying German, and then we dated in person for a year, and then it was long distance after that for 7 years. And when I say those were the best 8 years of my life. So I like to give people their flowers. That even when I'm angry, and that's love. I'm answering a survey on love, what love means to Black women, and it's just I had to pause. You know, when I tell myself that I identify as a Black woman, it's because I wasn't Black until I came to Germany in October of 2022, and it's been quite the transition because the reason why I'm struggling with my thesis, and I've said this before, is because it's hard to write, even type, even write with a pen on anti-blackness because you are confirming what the world has shown you all your life. When not this aunt, but when that cousin or auntie of yours used a lightening cream to make her skin fair, that was a message on anti-blackness that you were absorbing as a child. When um, your fairer, cousins, friends got attention from boys and the darker ones didn't. That was a lesson on anti-blackness. When you watched TV and all the characters were white, that was anti-blackness. When you watched music videos and the men sang praises about light-skinned girls and had light-skinned women with Coca-Cola shaped figures dancing next to them, and they were giving them money in this music video, and they were letting them ride in their expensive cars, and they were taking them on trips. That was a message on anti-blackness. And yes, I do recognize that there's colorism, which is in-group dynamics for Black people, that even within Black communities, we treat fair people like they're better. And the crass but loose way of saying it is the house nigger got to live in the house, and the dark Black person got to live elsewhere in the servants' quarters. We actually still have houses with servants' quarters in Kenya. So there's a lot of anti-Black sentiment. My mom is fairer than me, and I've been reminded constantly, even by relatives, that she's prettier than I am. And people who haven't met her are like, what do you mean? Like, you're beautiful. But you see, when you grow up hearing that someone else is prettier, and that same pretty person, or by standards of beauty in your country or wherever around you, your community, could just be even within your family, when people, including that same person, my mother has made very hurtful comments about my appearance, and that's been the core of my self-esteem issues, even though she is the very loudest in advocating for my body, for my appearance, because I have a very athletic build and I'm very tomboyish. And then when the person who harms you by commenting on your body when you're already self-conscious and they don't recognize that you have body image issues because they miss all the signs, because they're so busy trying to provide for you and care for you as their child. Pause, there's someone knocking the door. So when that's your existence, that's my cousin, my brother actually, checking up on me. Um, Side note, this is why my standards for men are so high. The men in my life, they do this. They ask, have you eaten? Are you okay? No. No, I'm not spoiled. My standards are high and I will never apologize for that. And also, there's nothing wrong with being spoiled, like spoiled for choice, for instance. I'm an only child. It's a privilege I've enjoyed. But on to the thing I was saying is when the same person causing you harm is a person you love and look up to. In this case, my mom is a single parent, so I love her and I look up to her and I want to make her life better because I can see her life is hard and I know I am part of the reason why her life is hard. Why? She's looking for school fees, she's looking for money for rent. She talked about money issues constantly, and so I absorbed that and I tried for so much of my childhood to make myself small so that she wouldn't strain herself, but it was never enough. And that theme of never enough has recurred in my life. I've never felt good enough. I've never felt good enough for my first love. Even when things were good, I would challenge him. Like, I just expected him to just find someone else. And I have engaged in acts of self sabotage even when I met guys who claimed to like me. Although, in all honesty, some of them were just playing games and I could see. And one of the things I learned from my mom, one of the things that are good that I learned from her is to just make my own happiness central. Like, if I am in a situation and I'm not happy, I leave. If I'm in a situation and I don't feel comfortable, I leave. I have slept on a train platform because I felt uncomfortable, because I felt unsafe. So I tell women to leave, but that comes with a certain privilege. And I'm very careful when I'm talking, especially to women who have young children in abusive relationships, whether it's emotionally, physically, or sexually abusive or financially abusive. Why? Because I know, and this isn't just statistically, I know it happens, that women are most at risk of getting killed when they leave or when they make plans to leave or while they are on their way out, because that's when this person realizes they no longer have a hold on you and they will try to force you to stay, and in that blind rage they harm you. And some women have lost their lives while trying to leave. So sometimes you're alive barely because you're still in the abusive relationship, which is why I tell people to offer grace. Don't ever open your mouth to say but do this, but do that, if you do not know what someone is dealing with. And also just educate yourself. The onus is not on the survivor of abuse to educate you on why they stayed. Do not ever ask a survivor of any form of abuse why they stayed. Go find out and then offer the support you can afford. And if you can't, don't make promises you can't keep. Another thing, the quickest way to get me to drop a relationship of any kind is to break a promise. If you tell me you're going to do something and you don't do it, especially if you're a man, that's it. That's a deal breaker for me. And I don't give you six chances. Uh, and many men don't know this because you may stay in my life because I have learned how to stick around because I need something from you still. So, for instance, if you're my employer, I'll stick around because I still need my paycheck before I leave, because I have been very recently in a situation where I expressed my dissatisfaction with being paid less than what I was owed, and I wasn't, my pay was held on to for an inordinate amount of time before it was released. That used to happen to me in Kenya as a black woman. I just learned how to kiss ass to survive from home, and then in the dysfunction that was my grandparents' marriage, and then in Germany when I came here to study and do my master's, and whether it's navigating different lecturers, and you noticed maybe one of them is sexist or weird, so you learn how to just make yourself small and quiet so as to get a good grade, because the system is bigger than you and it was built to keep you oppressed. So you learn how to pick your battles, right? Which is why my mental health has suffered so badly in this country. It's because I've had to mask. And masking is exhausting. It's pretending to be something you're not. And so my uncle and aunt, we get in touch. And after a long time, and we're staying in the house of an aunt of theirs who's just passed away, an older lady. There's nothing quite like death or the loss of a loved one to bring things into perspective. So as I'm going through my grief, because I grieve the loss of my mother every day, and when I say the loss of my mother, there are people who pause. My mother and I have not talked since before I left the country in 2022. I don't know if I think last time we spoke was probably around July, August of that year, 2022. So I haven't talked to my mom in over 2 years. It comes with a certain amount of peace when you notice the relationship between you and your mother is so complicated that you're always tiptoeing around her. You can't be your authentic self around her. She doesn't seem to understand anything that you're saying. You're always defensive. You make yourself small because you're scared around her. I am terrified of my mother. And so I have learned how to make myself small and how to avoid asking for things, and where did this come from? Childhood. And so people like us who've suffered CPTSD, childhood trauma, we really struggle with receiving love and receiving help. And I'm laying it bare on the internet because I've been listening to a particular feminist I look up to. And I'm radicalized in my feminism now because I've realized, for instance, and I've shared this before, that I've been holding on to the loyalty of, oh, I don't date outside the race because Black men are my vibe. And Black men have also been the source of a lot of my pain and harm. And so I decided to break that rule. Why? Because rules are supposed to exist. Like my friend Shiko used to say, culture is supposed to work for you. If it doesn't, you throw it out. If Christianity did not work for me, I would not be a Christian. I swear to you. If Adventism, Seventh-day Adventism didn't work for me, I would not practice it. I really would not. I am a very practical person. And it's the same way. If a relationship doesn't work for me anymore, I leave. I try to announce my exit. Most women, I give 3 strikes. But if I'm talking and you're not listening, I leave. Whether that's by blocking you, or it's by no longer engaging with you, or it's by whenever you ask me, let's say for a service or for help with something that, even if it's something you'd pay me to do, I just send you to someone else. Like when I tell you I value my peace over anything, when you almost die, because when I got COVID in 2020, I was sure I was going to die. Like I was alone, and I was sure I was going to die alone. And then it hit me like, no one is coming to save you. And that's something in me broke that day. And I have another friend who also survived COVID who thought she was going to die, and she was really sick. Now she was really, really sick. And we've been addressing the PTSD. We've been addressing our childhood trauma, and we've been realizing and recognizing that our ADHD is just a direct result of childhood trauma, of having to fend for ourselves, of having to always morph into something new and people please to survive, because the adults in our lives were quite violent, whether physically or emotionally, or both. And we Africans have normalized hard things, and I'm literally sat here grieving over the life I could have had if I were born white female, male, white male or black male, because they're just things that, like, when I joke about going about life with the audacity of a mediocre white man, I literally mean it. There are guys who just feel unapologetic about existing, and yet I, in all my awesomeness, tiptoe and experience what many people refer to as imposter syndrome. But is it really imposter syndrome, as Dr. Raquel Martin asks? Is it really imposter syndrome, or is it existing in a world where you are made to feel that you are not welcome? That is actually my life. Like, hearing my mom speak in church to single moms and talk about how hard it is to be a single mom and the sacrifices she made was basically telling me, my child brain, that you are such a burden. And if you were not here, there's so many things I would have accomplished. I wrote a tough letter to my mom. Initially, I wasn't supposed to send it. It was a therapy assignment. Just write all your feelings, what you really, really, really feel, that you feel you could never say to her. And then she really pissed me off. And I sent her that letter, and I copied my then romantic interest, who was very manipulative and controlling and religious. And I copied them both because they were friends, by the way. And I said, yeah, you two need to read this, because he didn't seem to believe me when I said that my mom had a dark side. What does that sound like? If you listen to Dr. Ramani Devasala, it's when an abusive person is a community leader, people don't usually believe the victim of abuse when they say, this person is harming me. Believe Black women. I do chair therapy, and I had a session with myself today where I sat and I talked to my mom just to assess, now that a loved one has been lost, not my loved one, but my aunt's loved one, my uncle's loved one, and you face your mortality and you start thinking about having a will and testament. And I have dependents. I have at least two kids who I recognize in my mind and on paper as being a legal guardian over. When I think of Tracy and I think of Tina, and I think that I have already written and updated something about them inheriting my property and my finances, should I die or when I die. I hope I die before them. Burying a child is the worst thing I can imagine any parent going through, which is why I've also made a deal with God about my mom dying before me, because how would she survive losing me this way, where we are no contact, and then losing me in death when we've never made peace. I have made peace, by the way, which is what I did in chair therapy. I was assessing to see, would you get in touch with your mother right now if she wanted to get in touch? I'm very hesitant about saying yes, because I don't think people change fundamentally. Side note to Christian people who are very quick to say, just talk to your mother. Please learn how to keep your opinions to yourself. If you don't have a full story, learn how to listen instead of offering unsolicited advice. It's mostly very unhelpful, and it's also very harmful. Today is a heavy day, as you can tell. I'm busy. I'm doing this between breaks. I haven't eaten. It's a good thing to be living with people, because they check to see that you've eaten or whether you've eaten. So I'm going to get something to eat. But as we clock the 20-minute mark, I'd like to leave you with this. If you're a survivor of narcissistic abuse and you've repeated the pattern, you broke up with your ex who was controlling or manipulative, and no one could see it because they're such a nice guy, and then you got into a situationship after that with someone who is equally controlling and equally charming, and you're asking yourself, what is wrong with me? And you realize and recognize your picker is broken. Understand this, it's not your fault. And it does get better. The reason why radical feminism and the 4B movement exist is so that we as women can learn to love ourselves enough to realize that I am my own first love. And it's okay. It's okay that, you know, you're still here figuring it out at 36, maybe at 42 with a child, children, maybe with one partner, maybe with three. It's okay. I don't judge you because I know what it's like to repeat the same life lessons all your life and to wonder, when will I ever learn? But if you're going to be completely honest with yourself, I'm sure there are things you're winning at. You've probably been a light in your community to someone who's hurting, because that's what I know about women who are going through hurt. At least the ones I know, they're always uplifting someone else in spite of their circumstances. So go be a light. Go be the awesome human being that you are. You're not a sum total of your accomplishments or your appearance or how many kids you do or don't have or how much money you do or don't have. You're so much more than that. You're not a speck in the universe, which is why I hate the Big Bang Theory. You're not just a random speck. You're a beautiful creature made by design. And whether you believe in the universe or you believe in God or you believe in Allah, you are special. You are beautiful. You are capable. You are enough. And I believe that finally. It's taken a long time to get here. But you know why I also believe it? I have people who remind me of this. Incidentally, all of them female. So get yourself some good girls and go be awesome and read that book and journal and cry and pay for that therapy session. And if you can't afford it, start following psychologists online who speak to that inner part of you that's healing and they make you realize, oh, wait, I can do this. The ones who leave you feeling empowered. You'll thank me later. Have a good one.